Good morning, students, and welcome back to my channel. Let's learn together. So, if you're following me on my channel, you would know that in my last video, I talked to you about the thematic aspects of the poem My Mother at 66, which is written by Kamla Das. I just try to think about and then try to convey you the very basic ideas and themes upon which the poem is possibly built upon. So, in today's video, my effort is going to read the poem between the lines and try to interpret it as far as we can. But before we actually begin with the poem, I want you to understand and question yourself about this. Out of many genres of writing that you would have read or that would have acquainted yourself in last 11 years of your studies, which is the one which you find is the most difficult one? For example, you know about prose writing, you know about drama writing, and you know about poetry writing. Out of prose, out of drama, out of prose, drama, and poetry, which one do you think is the most difficult? Well, the answer is going to be poem, and there are many reasons for it. The reasons is the possible reasons could be that poem or poetry is one genre which is intellectually very taxing. The reason could be that a poet is at his or her most creative level when he or she is writing a poem. A poem is a genre where one is allowed to use the creativity and stretch and expand the creativity to the maximum level that he or she can do it. So there are words. I mean, the poem is not just a string of words and sentences. And if you know anything about poem, then you would know that there are multiple layers of meaning that a poem can actually offer to you. And when you read a poem, there is one surface meaning, of course, that anyone or even a moderate reader can find out. But if you're an advanced reader, if you understand the usage of symbolism, if you understand the variety of poetic devices that a poet can use in his or her writing, then you know that understanding a poem is a bit difficult than making sense of prose and drama, where language is comparatively straightforward and yes, simple also. Well, that is one reason why some of us may find poetry little difficult than another genres, but then there are another important reason why one may find poetry difficult, and that is the approach which we have adopted towards these literary genres. See, as a student, you're studying in a school, and obviously, it is expected out of you to read your text well, to acquaint yourself with your text very well, and then to take your exams at the end of the year, which actually becomes the basis of your assessment. I completely understand this, but this is not how you approach literature. Whenever you read literature, you must understand that it's not just reading that is required, but uh, the approach towards literature should be not just from your mind, it should be from your heart. You should be able to feel literature, you should be able to understand literature as life. Literature should not just be read just for clearing your examinations. I'm sorry to say that's a very wrong approach. So when you read a poem, when you read a novel, when you read a prosaic form, when you read any drama, please read it in its entirety and understand that there is a very uh, basic beauty of the language that gets surfaced out in literature, and you need to understand that beauty. You should be able to appreciate that beauty along with allowing yourself to grow critically more aware. You have to become a more critically you have to be able to become uh, able to become somebody who is able to think critically about an issue or about an event or about an incident that has been represented in the text, right? Therefore, approach your poem from the point of view of understanding and enjoying it, and not just from the point of view of writing answers in your exams. That will happen once you're able to understand the poem well, once you're able to enjoy your poem well. I have seen one very basic Once again, I wouldn't really call it a mistake, but an approach that most of the students and some of the teachers also take while approaching poem, and that is that they tend to understand each and every word in a poem, each and every sentence in a poem. This habit of, or this tendency of trying to understand and dissect each and every word of a poem is something that actually deflects you from your intended path. Read a poem first and approach it in its entirety. First of all, allow yourself to just read the poem quietly and calmly. And if possible, give it multiple readings. As many number of times you can read it, please read it. Especially if it's a small poem, if the size of the poem is not really big, then you can definitely allow yourself to give it multiple number of readings. Can do you not? Therefore, what I'm trying to get at is that once you approach the poem, read it. First reading should always be given in its entirety. Then second reading with little bit more awareness. And by the time you're reading it for the third and the fourth time, I'm sure you would be able to interpret or make some sense of what the poet is trying to convey. Therefore, that is how I am going to approach this poem today. And I'm going to first read out the poem. You are recommended to keep a notebook and a pen with you. As I'm talking to you, as you're listening to this video, you can just keep on taking notes. I'll try to be as slow as possible, but the first effort by me is going to be of reading the poem. Therefore, I'm reading out the poem in a while to you. Please keep a textbook along with you if you have a hard copy. If you do not, if you cannot access the hard copy, kindly just listen to the poem quietly, and then you will be able to make sense of it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to read the poem, and after reading out the poem, I'll try to understand the poem, or I'll try to interpret the poem by reading it between the lines. So I'm starting to read the poem. Driving from my parents' home to Kochi last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, dozed, open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse with realized pain and that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, "See you soon, Amma," and all I did was smile and smile and smile. So that was the poem. Now, there was hardly any pause by me in between, because when you see the poem, or if you have actually seen the poem, you would know that there is no full stops in between. Poem is only containing some of the punctuation marks, like mostly the commas, and yes, it's mostly the poem commas. There is no even colons or semicolons. So the poem, the complete, it's actually in the form of one sentence which is stretched out, or which is in a way broken away in between with the help of the commas. That is it. And these are the commas where you can actually pause a bit and then you have to move on. So it's just one single string of sentence that right from the beginning to the end moves on, and even at the end of the sentences there is as if the poem has not ended, and there are dot 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 which is given at the end of the poem. So I want actually you to think about it, what could be this structure of the poem mean, because you have read some of the poem in your last year's syllabus, right? So try to compare, as I told you in my last video also, try to compare this structure of the poem with the poems that you would have read in past, and try to make sense of what could be the possible reason. Please understand that there is nothing that happens with chance. Whatever that has become the part of the poem has actually been very carefully contrived by the poet. So if this is something that the poet has decided to present before you, then what could possibly the reason? Think about it. I'm not going to answer you right now. Let us once again start reading the poem, word by word, sentence by sentence, and let us see what is it that Kamla Das is trying to say. Okay, or to be more specific, what is it that the narrator is trying to say? So she says, driving from my parents' home to Kochi last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doze, open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse. I'm stopping here, right? So here you can very easily understand that the narrator is referring to one day, and this one day was probably last Friday. So many days wouldn't have been passed from the time when she is reporting everything here to us, to the reader, in the form of a poem. And she's saying that last Friday, what happened when I was driving from my home towards Kochi? Where is Kochi situated? Kerala. So from her home to Kochi, and that was some last Friday. I saw my mother beside me, doors open, mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse. Now here she is comparing her mother with that of a corpse. A corpse basically is a dead body. Now, a corpse is a dead body, and dead body, would not feel anything. A dead body would not have any emotions. A dead body will not have any life in it. It will be completely deprived of life, let alone emotions, feelings, and any other kind of form of lives in the body. So now she says that I saw my mother, which means I noticed my mother, who was more or less like that of a corpse. She was more or less like that of a dead body. Now this is definitely not a very good comparison. You would not want anybody of your friends or anybody who knows you to compare you with a dead body. So if she is deciding to compare her mother with a dead body, what could be the possible reasons? Keep thinking about it. I'm not giving you answers right now. You have to get back to me with the answers in either in writing, or you can put your answers in comment box. So then there are other features, that the mother is in a dozed state and open mouthed. So when she is moving, the mother is moving along with her daughter in a car, probably in a taxi, from her home towards the airport. So she's lying beside her daughter, and she's half asleep and her mouth is open. And when she's sleeping, probably unknowingly her mouth is open, and that is actually one of the features of an old age. So that tells us that she is in a very advanced stage. In any case, the title tells us that it is about her mother, who is 66-year-old. So definitely the mother is in an advanced stage of aging, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. Realized with pain. So there is a realization that daughters get, and the realization is that mother has got old. Now you must think, how is it that daughter has never thought that mother has got old? No, that is because children tend to take their parents for granted, isn't it? Right from the very earlier years of our lives, we've been taken care of by our parents, we've been loved by our parents, we've always been provided for our needs by our parents. We have actually tended to take them for granted, and we know that they are going to be there with us forever, maybe, and they will always be there to take care of us, to love us, to take care of our needs and everything. But one fine day, and in this whole process, we forget that parents do age, right? So in this whole process, now she has probably also not realized that mother is actually very very old. But then this realization is coming with a pain, because she's leaving her mother. She's leaving her mother all alone, maybe, we do not know, no such indication is given. But yes, mother needs the help. The elderly people at home needs help of the younger people. It is actually the role reversal that has taken place, and that should take place now. Now the children have to take care of their parents, and parents have to be taken care by the children. It has to be now other way around. Till now it were the parents who have been taken care of the children, but now with the aging and with the advancement in the age, now the parents are not physically fit enough to do that. Now they are becoming, day by day they're becoming weaker, and that is why it's the turn of the children to take care of them. So now she realizes that actually my mother has got really very old, and she looks like a corpse when she's sleeping. Dozed means half sleeping. So when she's sleeping, it is as if there are no emotions, no life left in the mother. And she compares the mother with a corpse, and she says that, oh, she has got old. And this is a painful realization, because this also leads her towards the guilt. And the guilt is that of not being able to take care of her parents, and she's moving away. So her mother needs her presence. daughter's presence. Her mother needs daughter's care. Her mother needs daughter's tending, but then she's not able to give it to the daughter for some reason. In the last video, I discussed to you about how societies, the fabric of the society has been changing, how people from the joint family system has been moving to the a nuclear family system. How is it that we have become in past few years more educated, and therefore there has been a need to be economically self-sufficient that has arisen amongst many people, and therefore there is this need of going out of the families and working and to become an self-sufficient individual. That could be the reason. Therefore, when you read this poem, don't just look at it from the point of view of a daughter and a mother. You need to understand that this whole lot of social fabric, the structure of the society is also involved. And therefore I said that when you read a poem is not just what it looks in its line. You need to think beyond the lines. While reading between the lines, you need to start thinking beyond the lines, right? Let us now get back to the poem. So, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes, right? So she's thinking about her mother, and she is very sad about the fact that mother is very old, and she is very guilty about the fact that she's not been able to take care of her mother. Therefore, now all these thoughts that are being created within her are creating pain. They're creating a kind of turbulence within her. So what happens, just to get rid of that pain and turbulence, she is trying to distract herself, and she looks out of the window. She just leaves that thought. She looks out of the window, or what does she find? She finds there are young trees, there are young children who are just coming out of their home as if they're spilling out of their home. Spilling means when you spill open, when you open up a bean, the peas, no, those peas, they just spill out of the beans. So that is what the spilling is. Spilling means coming out of them. They're jumping out of their homes and they're playing. So then you find there is a very stark contrast between the image that she's created. So there is her mother. She is old, as old like a corpse, without any feeling. But then outside the window or out in the world, there are people who are very young. They're full of energy. So these are two different stages of life. That is what she's trying to say. There's one stage of life when one is quite young, energetic, and is able to run out and is able to make most of their time. But then inevitably this time passes out into an age of degeneration. A person gets old, so old that life hardly has any meaning. And with this oldness, there is this emotional need of an individual, of an elderly, that starts coming up, which sometimes may get neglected in a society which is moving towards, or which is moving, or which is driven by ambitions of individuals. So when there are just ambitions before us, we sometimes may forget or neglect the emotional needs of the elderlies at home. Don't you think so? Right? So therefore there is this stark image where there's one phase of a life when person is extremely happy, he or she is extremely vivacious, full of life. But then at the same time, the same person is inevitably going to land up in a life or in a stage where there's going to be degeneration, where there's going to be extreme neglect, there's going to be extreme isolation, and nobody is going to take care of them. Okay, let's move ahead. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. Let me stop here. Now, with that taxi, she has reached out to the airport, and at the airport, once again, she's standing with some distance away from her mother. She's probably ready to move inside the airport, or the mother is still outside, and she looks back at her mother. And then she looks back at her mother. She finds her mother's face extremely lifeless, completely pale. Paleness on the face, on the skin, what does this remind you? Please think about it. The paleness is generally an indication of a disease. It is generally an indication of lifelessness, because when a person is young, the face or the body or the skin would be glowing with with the rushness of red, with the redness of the blood. So that redness of the blood reflects life within a body. But once the face is turning pale, it means that that rush of the blood and the body is not there, which means there is, the body is going lifeless. Slowly and steadily it's becoming lifeless. And the paleness also refers to the old age, it refers to degeneration, it refers to feebleness in the body. Okay, so she is referring to her mother's face as that of a late winter's moon. A late winter's moon. I'm leaving you out on this question. I'm not explaining the meaning of this particular phrase right now. I'll upload one another video where I'll discuss the poetic devices. But till then, you are requested to think about it. What could it mean? Why is it that mother's face is compared with that of a late winter's moon? Please keep thinking about it, and answer to me about it in the comment section below, or probably you can get back to the WhatsApp group and then you can answer, have a discussion with me. So right now I'm not discussing it with you. Please think about it. And felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. So now when she looks at her mother face, which is wan and which is compared to late winter's moon, this is reminding her of yet another fear, the fear that she had when she was a child. So that fear has come up again, and this is a very familiar fear, which means she has been through it many times before, at least once before, if not many times. What could be this fear? What could be the narrator's childhood fear? Please think about it. I'm not giving you answers as of now. Please think, and then let me know. And all I said was, see you soon, Amma. All I did was smile and smile and smile. So she is looking at her mother and she realizes the mother is very old, but then she has to go. There is probably no other option. She cannot stay back. And she looks back at her mother, and she finds the face very dull, degenerative, old. And that face, that degenerative face, reminds her of an old familiar ache, an old familiar pain, and that pain which she used to have when she was a child. What could that pain be? Please think about it. And feeling helpless about the whole situation, comparatively, in a situation where she probably cannot do anything, she cannot turn back, she cannot move back to her own family, to her mother. Even though she realizes that she is needed to stay with her mother, she cannot do that. So hopelessly and helplessly, she just smiled with her mother, and all she says was, see you soon, Amma. So there is this hope within her that next time when I come, I hope to see you alive. Which is definitely painful for any child, or for any daughter, or for any son to realize that next time when he or she comes back, the parent might just not be alive. So this is definitely painful when she says that, see you soon, Amma, and with the hope that I hope that I see you again. And then all she does was smile and smile and smile, and definitely the smile is a reflection of her helplessness. So there's how the poem ends. So please think about the questions that I left for you in between the narration of the poem. Also, along with the certain poetic devices, or certain phrases which you have to interpret for your own, along with that, you need to think about the structure of the poem, as I told you. And you need to get back with me with all these questions, because I'll very soon upload one more video in which I'll discuss in detail all the poetic devices that have been used in the poem, because poetic devices have been extensively used in this poem, which altogether may alter your interpretation of the poem. Therefore, keep thinking about it, keep reading the poem, and if you have any problems, if you have any questions, or if you want to discuss the interpretations of the phrases that I left out for you, please discuss with me either on the group or in the comment section below. So till then, I take your leave, and I hope you have enjoyed the poem. Also think, after reading the poem, what effect does it have on your mind? Are you feeling happy after the reading the poem? Are you feeling bad, or you feel guilty, or you feeling bored? Whatever your feelings are, just introspect them. introspect them, and try to understand why those feelings within you are arising after reading the poem. Have you understood the poem well or not? Or is it that it demands more attention by you? Please keep thinking about it. Till then, till I upload a next video, I'll see you later. And till then, take care of yourself. Bye bye.